8 spine-chilling and sinister horror stories from haunted Appalachia trails revealed. The air was heavy in Hempstead Hollow as dusk fell over the dense woods. Every shadow tucked itself away, leaving only a stark silhouette against the setting sun. The Braxton family, who lived here for generations, had always felt the town's pulse thrum with dark secrets. Lily Braxton, a spirited 17-year-old, felt that pulse quicken each time she glanced at the crumbling church that loomed nearby. Whispers and warnings seeped through the townsfolk's conversations, tales of those who vanished, lost to the fog of despair. "Stay away from the church after dark," they'd say. But that only fueled her curiosity. The sun dipped lower, casting an ominous glow on the fields. As she fed the animals, memories of sickening disappearances flashed through her mind. Little Tommy with his bright red cap, gone without a trace, and a chill ran down her spine. She longed for adventure but feared what lurked in the woods. Lily, her father, John, called from the barn, his voice gruff with worry. "Finish up before dark. I don't want you caught outside when the sun goes down." But Lily had other plans. "What's up with the church?" she asked, trying to suppress a thrill racing through her veins. "We should check it out." John's brow furrowed. "That place is history. Whatever's in there ain't tea for us." Yet she saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, and when the sounds began, the eerie echoes that seemed to draw her in, he relented. "Fine. Just keep your head on straight." As they approached the neglected church, a shiver of dread wrapped around Lily. The wooden sign that creaked in the wind read, "Enter at your own risk." Inside, the air turned cold as they swept their flashlights over the ghostly pews. Decaying remnants of hymns hung like whispers. John scoffed, trying to slice through the tension with practical words, but a shudder took hold when a draft coiled around their ankles, chilling them to the bone. Then Lily saw her, a flickering figure, pale and sad, a young girl with hollow eyes that screamed of sorrow. "What?" she gasped, backing into John, heart pounding against her ribs. The figure beckoned, a call that echoed deep within her. What did it want? "Lily, it's just your imagination," John said, though his voice shook just a little. "Right?" Before she could respond, they stumbled onto something hidden beneath the rotting floor, a compartment. Dust billowed as they pried it open, revealing ancient journals stacked high. Scribbled pages of sorrow spoke of the town's dark past, and Lily's heart raced. Mr. Claiborne, a once respected leader, had twisted ties with recent disappearances, his ink bleeding secrets of betrayal. What if he's the reason for all this? She whispered, fear coiling in her stomach. John frowned, grappling with the shift in his own thoughts. The warmth of family comfort began to cave under mounting dread, questioning everything he trusted about the town. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lily's eyes darted back to the apparition as an unsettling laughter echoed from the woods beyond, the laughter of the vanished. A cold sweat seeped down her back. The walls of the church seemed to pulse, as if alive with baleful energy, a reminder of sins buried so deep that escape now felt impossible. Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously, plunging them into darkness. Silence swallowed them whole. The distant laughter morphed into whispers, chilling and inviting as they felt the weight of their legacy pressing down. What dark history were they bound to uncover? The answers twisted just out of reach, shrouded in fear. Would they become the next chapter in the town's haunted history? Lily's heart raced. The line between adventure and terror blurred. In that moment of dread, she knew they had aroused something deep within the shadows. What would rise from the ashes of forgotten truths? A sudden gust of wind hit, rattling the church's ancient doors like skeletal hands banging against wood. Darkness wrapped around them like wet fabric, suffocating any rational thought. Lily's breath quickened, a frantic rhythm that matched the pounding in her ears. "Lily, stay close," John's voice cut through the silence, though it wavered. He pulled out his flashlight, the beam flickering as if swaying between fear and doubt. "Let us get out of here." But Lily couldn't move, not yet. Her eyes were latched on that ghostly figure. The young girl still lingered, her translucent form weaving through the shadows, eyes imploring. "Help me," the echo of her voice sent chills rippling across Lily's skin. "Did you hear that?" Lily breathed, her heart racing. John shook his head, irritated but also scared, casting his light farther into the darkness. The journal lay open, its pages bending with the draft, exposing spilled tales of woe. The unsettling laughter erupted once more, hovering on the edge of the forest, the sounds of agony intermingling with it, a chaotic symphony of the lost. "Something's not right. We need to go," John urged, retreating half a step, but Lily stepped forward, compelled. "Wait. She's trying to tell us something." "Tell us what?" "That we're in a haunted church." "Come on." John's voice competed with the rising panic. As Lily dared to inch closer to the figure, the faint outline seemed to solidify, twisting into a face, a mirror of sorrow that mirrored her own age but wore a deep sadness like a shroud. Flashes of lightning illuminated her features, wet with tears. "Don't trust him," she gasped, pointing into the darkness beyond. "He makes them disappear." Who makes them disappear?" But as the lightning faded, so did the apparition, her warning evaporating into the stagnant air. The church groaned, rattling with the weight of its own memories. John stepped back, eyeing the door, the quaking beneath his feet felt like the earth itself was trembling with anticipation. "She's gone, Lily. We can't stay here. Now. Not until I find out more." In defiance, Lily reached for the journal again. The pages fluttered like birds startled into flight, revealing a chilling entry, an account of rituals, dark pacts made under the shrouded moonlight, binding the town to an unseen force. With each line, her heart sank deeper. The hypocrisy of Mr. Claiborne, mingled with townsfolk desperate for salvation, painted a horrifying image of vanished children and their desperate cries drowned in the night. Lily John's voice was a thin thread of desperation. She clenched the journal tighter, fear racking her thoughts. "What if we can expose him? What if we can save the others?" "We can't save anyone if we're part of the stories," he hissed, frantically darting his eyes towards the exits, as though the shadows themselves were crawling towards them. Then, the church rumbled ominously, the very foundation shaking. The air turned thick, suffused with a musk of decay. As windows rattled, one shattered, sending shards flying across the floor. A voice, one that reverberated from behind the walls, rose over the chaos. "Come back," Lily spun, her heart pumping like a drum. "It's calling." "No. We need to leave," but the very essence of the church cried for them, a dark invitation laced with despair. As the ground shifted beneath them, she felt an intoxicating pull, the shadows dancing like temptresses, hiding secrets too dark to face. The whispers grew louder, blending into a cacophony of voices, some pleading, some angry, but all were fractured. Lily felt dizzy, cold tendrils wrapping around her legs, dragging her toward the pulpit. Fear filled John's eyes, his voice barely a whisper as he struggled to keep her from slipping away. "Lily, we have to get out. Now." But as the shadows surged forward, her world twisted. The walls pulsed like a beating heart, something ancient, something that craved. Reality flickered and thinned, and at that moment, she understood. There was no escaping the past. The town's secrets were alive, and she had opened the door. Somewhere deep inside, the truth screamed to be freed. But at what cost? Lily's heart thundered. She faced the encroaching darkness, ready to dive into the unknown. But unseen forces began to close in around them, trapping them in a web of terror. As if in response, thunder rumbled outside, the storm raging on, but within the church, only the forlorn whispers lingered, pressing against them, like a tide of despair. What awaited them in that darkness? Would they succumb to the shadows or emerge unscathed? The shadows thickened, a suffocating veil that wrapped itself around Lily and John, pulling them deeper into the church's malevolent grasp. The echoes of the past twisted, morphing into chilling whispers that seemed to slither into their minds, clawing at their reason. Lily clutched the journal like a lifeline, its pages turning under her frantic grip, revealing fragments of despair. Each entry felt like a weight on her chest, the girl's warning replayed in Lily's mind. Don't trust him. The words sparked doubt, a sharp flicker that cut through her fear. Was John really the ally she thought he was? As the tentacles of darkness encroached further, she felt the chill of betrayal, unwanted and bitter. Lily. John's voice trembled, pulling her back from the brink. We can't let this thing trap us. His panic ignited an instinctual response. Adrenaline surged as she took a step back toward him. But the shadows weren't just a barrier, they seemed alive, shifting, writhing with hunger. The whispers intensified, overlapping into a siren's wail, beckoning them, promising answers, revealing horrors yet unseen. What do we do? John's illuminated face was strained, every flicker of the flashlight betraying his cracking composure. Maybe we can destroy the journal. The thought slammed into her mind, then paled next to the idea of the truth. The rituals they began with knowledge. If we burn it, maybe we break the cycle? I don't know, Lily. His words dripped with doubt. If it contains the truth or a curse. She interrupted, urgency flooding her voice. Every child was lost because of what this book holds. Trust me. Thunder shook the walls in agreement or warning, the reverberation clawing at their nerves. In that moment, the floor beneath them cracked a deep fissure, splitting the boards like a grin of despair. Run! They bolted toward the door, hearts hammering against their ribs. The shadows lashed out, a dark wave that chased them down. Stones thudded in their wake, crashing around them like falling pieces of their sanity. With each thunderous step, the church let out a mournful cry. Stay! The voice came again, louder, insistent. It resonated through every crack and crevice, curling around their minds. Stay forever, we can't stop. John screamed, pulling at Lily's wrist as they careened past crumbling pews that loomed like specters, grasping at their fleeting hope. Come on. Just as they reached the door, the ground heaved beneath them. The ancient wood splintered, and the church moaned like a living entity. Shadows concentrated around them, dark figures taking form, their faces twisted in unyielding agony. Lily's pulse thundered as she stumbled to a halt, the corridor of darkness closing in. John! The desperation in her voice cut through the chaos. The air thickened, cloaked in an unholy scent of damp earth and decay. He turned, his flashlight illuminating skeletal faces hidden in the abyss. Each one echoed their own fears, their own cries, warped reflections of countless lost souls. Don't look at them! He yelled, tugging her toward the threshold as he unleashed a flurry of panic. But something pulled at her, an overwhelming grief that seeped through her feet. She glanced back. The faces were familiar, distorted reflections of children from the town. Their mouths twisted in silent screams, eyes wide and vacant. She could feel them, intertwining with her own fear. They're trying to tell us, Lily. Focus. John's plea tugged her back from the precipice. With a fierce determination, she turned to the door. It felt closer but impossibly far. We can't end like this. The resolve burgeoned within her. Suddenly, the ground cracked open, a splintering chasm yawning before them, drops of darkness spilling forth like ink. The journal slipped from her fingers. Time froze as they both stared at it falling, pages fluttering like trapped birds, revealing secrets best left buried. And then the shadows surged, hungry and chaotic. Catch it! John bellowed, but the darkness whispered sweetly, and in a heartbeat, the journal vanished into the void. A terrifying silence filled the church, and as they trembled at the edge of oblivion, a single question hung in the air. Was the darkness satisfied, or was it just beginning? The shadows lunged, and in that fracturing moment, reality twisted violently, as the church echoed with a single, chilling proclamation, "You're part of the story now." What would they have to face next? And were they already too late to comprehend what that truly meant? The silence stretched, thickening the air until it felt like a noose tightening around them. Lily could hear her heart pounding, the beats echoing strangely against the stillness that followed the journal's disappearance. John's breath quickened, barely a whisper against the suffocating darkness. Where did it go?" he stammered, eyes darting frantically around for any sign of escape. "It's not gone." Her voice trembled, laced with both fear and a strange understanding. "It's part of this, whatever this is. The church, the shadows, they need it. They want to consume us too. Then we need to keep moving," John urged, pulling her forward. But the church had other plans. The shadows coiled tighter, whispering promises of despair. Images danced in the corners of her mind, moments from their past slipping through the grip of reality: school days, laughter, the warmth of summer. The children's faces twisted into grotesque masks of sorrow, pleading for release. "No!" she gasped, shaking her head, trying to clear the fog of despair threatening to engulf her. She thought of the girl's warning, of John's face covered in nerves. "Don't trust him," whispered memories clawed at her conscience. She cast another frantic glance at John, who was still tugging her toward the door. The beams of his flashlight flickered weakly, revealing a kaleidoscope of shadowy shapes wiggling and undulating like snakes on the prowl. "Lily, move!" he shouted urgently, desperation painting his voice as a chill wound through the air. In her gut, she felt the shift, the heaviness transforming into a harbinger of despair. What if he has the key? Her own thoughts scared her. The journal isn't just a thing, it's a bond. If he's linked to it, stop it. John snapped, shaking her. "We don't have time for this. We need to go." She couldn't shake the nagging thought. Did John know more? The fear washed over her like cold water. Betrayal was a poison that spread fast. Could she trust him? Their eyes locked for a beat too long, and the shadows inched closer, feeding on their doubt. "Run!" They bolted again, the darkness clawing at their heels like ravenous beasts. Enticing whispers filled the air, tickling at their ears. They wove promises of peace against the chaos of their racing hearts. What was left behind in the abysmal chasm was an anthem of despair. "Where do we go?" John called out, breathless. "Outside." She didn't even know if daylight was still there. "There has to be a way out." With every step, they were pulled further into a labyrinth of darkness, the walls closing in and warping their sense of direction. Then came a thundering sound, the bell tolling ominously, echoing like a death knell. Suddenly, John took a sharp left, dragging Lily behind him toward a narrow stairwell carved into the stone. "This way. Quick!" Shadows slithered around the edges, snapping at their heels. They ascended the steps, their feet slipping on the damp stone, fear propelling them upwards. Each step sent another deep rattle through the ground beneath them. It felt alive, quaking with anticipation. But just as they reached a heavy wooden door at the top, it swung open. A gust of stale air blasted them, carrying unfiltered dread. Within stood a figure cloaked in shadows, a silhouette that felt all too familiar. Lily John, the voice was hauntingly sweet, like sugar dipped in poison. "Who are you?" Lily's breath caught. A wave of danger rolled off the figure, making her skin prickle. "Do you want to see what truly lies beyond?" it asked, stepping closer. Shadows curled around it like mist, revealing a face that made Lily's stomach twist, one of the lost children. "No!" John screamed, stepping in front of Lily. "Get back! The figure smiled, a gruesome curl of lips that sent a chill coursing through her. "Stay with us." Join the story. The shadows swirled, shifting as darkness beckoned them closer. They were trapped in a pulse of throbbing dread, the weight of untold horrors thick in the air. John's grip tightened, but uncertainty washed over Lily. Were they running from salvation or deeper into the abyss? The truth lay just within reach, but at what cost? The door swung wider as the shadows shrieked and howled, and in that moment, Lily was consumed by a single thought: was stepping into that darkness an escape, or another trap hidden in the narrative? "Lily, what do we do?" John's voice shook, barely a whisper. And just then, she heard it again, the whispered secrets clawing at her mind. The world bent around them, threatening to swallow them whole. As the shadows surged forward, Lily realized the only thing she could do was choose. But could she survive the truth of the story that awaited her? The last echo of the church faded into a deafening silence. What lay beyond the door was unthinkable. The choice loomed before her: would they dare step forward? Lily felt her heart constrict as the figure loomed closer, the shadows spilling like ink, seeping into the corners of her vision. The child's face twisted into a haunting mask, and she staggered back, her mind racing. "Join us," the figure crooned, an invitation that felt more like a curse. "Don't!" John shouted, his voice cracking, but it was too late. The child's eyes bore into Lily, deep wells of sorrow and despair that threatened to swallow her whole. Images flashed in her mind: the smiling faces of children, their laughter echoing in harmony with the whispers that now enveloped them. "Lily!" John's voice pierced through the fog, pulling her back from the brink of that abyss, but the shadows howled in protest, reaching for her with gnarled fingers that seemed to stretch from every corner of the darkened room. She shook her head violently, trying to break free of the grip of that memory. "No, I want to become one of you." John stumbled back, dragging Lily with him towards the door just as the figure lunged forward. Panic surged within her, icy and biting. She could almost feel the chill of the grave seeping into her bones, but John was already moving. He pushed her ahead, urgency etched across his ashen face. They fell through the doorway, slamming it shut behind them. The thud reverberated like a heartbeat, but the oppressive darkness lingered, clutching at their legs, pulling them down into despair. "Where now?" John panted, glancing around the eerie corridors. Torches flickered, casting frantic shadows that danced and darted like frightened creatures. Each step felt heavy, charged with a foreboding dread, as if the very air was aware of their fear. "Keep moving," Lily responded, her voice trembling despite her resolve. They turned another corner, and the walls seemed to pulse, breathing in time with their desperation. Suddenly, they heard a chorus of whispers, that same haunting melody, filling the air from behind them. "You can't escape," it sang, each word palpable, threading into their minds. "Join us." A cold sweat trickled down Lily's spine. The path stretched endlessly before them, the flickering lights casting unsettling shapes that taunted her. Each shadow seemed to reach for her, their intent sinister and clear. "Lily, we have to hide," John hissed, pulling her toward a narrow alcove just off the hallway. They pressed themselves against the stone walls, hearts racing, breath shallow and rapid. As they crouched in the dark, the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a storm. Lily's hands trembled, sweat drenching her palms. "What do they want?" she whispered, straining to hear. "Maybe the journal will tell us," John murmured, fear coursing through him. "If it's connected to all this, maybe we can use it against them." "Use it? Or become it?" she countered, a shadow of doubt pulling at her heart. Then, out of nowhere, a piercing scream split the air, echoing down the corridor. It was filled with the essence of anguish, fragile and raw. They exchanged horrified looks, uncertainty coiling tighter around them like a noose. "Did you hear that?" John asked, his voice barely above a whisper now, full of dread and disbelief. "Something's wrong," Lily said, her skin prickling with terror. "We need to figure this out. Fast." But the voices intensified, a cacophony merging into a single plea: "Join us." A sudden, chilling realization struck her. The children, their faces, they want to lure us. Just then, the lights flickered out, the world around them plunging into blackness. Lily felt John's hand slip from hers, panic sparking within her. "John!" "Lily!" His voice rang out, swallowed by the dark. Panic swelled as she groped in the void, straining to find him, the whispers edging closer, slithering through her thoughts. In that moment, the shadows wrapped around her like a shroud, and she screamed as the darkness twisted into a claustrophobic grip. Would she follow John into the depths, or succumb to the whispers urging her deeper into despair? Suddenly, a bright flash ignited the dark, illuminating the silhouettes of children, their expressions twisted with both sorrow and something darker. "Help us," they chorused, voices merging as one, sending a sickening chill down her spine, and just as quickly as it began, the light snapped out again, leaving her reeling in the suffocating shadows that craved her fear. Was there any escape from the darkness, or was temptation too sweet to resist? The choice loomed larger than ever. Lily stumbled, disoriented in the overwhelming darkness. The atmosphere pressed against her, thick with despair and dread. She thought of John, the panic that had ignited in his voice before they were swallowed by the abyss. Panic coursed through her veins as she reached out, her fingers brushing against the cold stone wall, searching desperately for any sign of him. "John!" Her voice cracked, barely a whisper against the suffocating silence. But the only response was the echo of her own desperation, bouncing back at her like a taunt. The darkness seemed alive, shifting and coiling, each breath she took thick with the weight of unseen eyes. "Join us," the chorus returned, as if the shadows themselves were wrapping their syllables around her throat. "No!" she gasped, shaking her head fiercely. "Stay back!" The whispers grew louder, swirling in an insistent chant, pulling her attention like a moth to a flame. Images flickered in her mind, a flicker of joy, then a sharp, gnawing sorrow. Faces twisted in grief and longing, eyes pleading with her to give in. "We're all alone, let us in." Lily stomped forward, pushing through the haze of voices. "I'm not afraid. I want to be like you." Her defiance seemed to infuse the shadows with rage. The air turned cold, chilling her bones as icy fingers gripped her arms and legs, holding her in place. The whispers turned into screams, high-pitched and shrill, suffocating her resolve. "Help us! Help us!" they cried out, blending into a singular voice that reverberated through the gloom. The sorrow wove into her heart, wrapping it tight. She could feel it pulling at her, trying to lure her, trying to convince her that surrendering would mean peace. "Lily!" John's voice broke through the chaos, a lifeline amid the tide of madness. "This way!" She could barely see him through the suffocating darkness, but she ran toward the sound of his voice, her heart racing wildly. As she stumbled, torchlight flickered back to life, illuminating the path ahead. She spotted John, pale and terrified, beckoning her urgently. "Quick!" he urged, his voice shaking. Before she could respond, the darkness around them erupted, shadows morphing into more twisted forms. They stretched and contorted, a mass of faces twisted in pain and longing, their mouths wide as they screamed silently. Lily gasped, an icy dread consuming her. "What are they?" "The journal," John shouted, his voice barely above the cacophony. "If we can find it, maybe it holds the answer." "Where?" she shouted back, desperately scanning the surroundings. The whispers echoed louder, saturating her mind and creating a tangible pressure, threatening to crush her will. He pointed down another hallway, the walls pulsing as if they were alive. "Down there. It has to be." But with every step they took, the ground trembled beneath them, an ominous warning of the darkness closing in. Shadows chased them, their whispers blending into one, flowing like a dark river eager to pull them down. "Join us forever." As they reached the entry to the next corridor, a burst of energy surged through Lily, desperation wrapped around her like a vice. "We can't let it win, John." Without warning, the lights flickered again, and the world plunged into a terrifying blackness. She felt John's hand grip hers, tight and real. "Stick together," John commanded, pulling her onward, but the whispers swelled, drowning out all thought. "Leave the light, join us in the dark." Before they could run, the shadows lunged, throwing themselves at them like hungry beasts. Lily felt her heart thunder against her chest, the frantic pace pushing her forward despite every instinct telling her to freeze. Then, in a fleeting moment, a glint of something metallic caught her eye. "There!" She pointed, adrenaline bursting through her like fire. "Get it!" John yelled, leaning forward as the darkness clawed at his shoulders. But just as she reached out for the memory of that melody, that journal, that cursed artifact, they felt another voice emerge, rich with despair. "Do you really want to remember?" it purred, echoing through the fog. Lily paused, the words curling around her mind. What was buried in that journal? Could it contain their salvation, or would it lead them deeper into a nightmare? Only one thing was certain, they had to find out. But would that knowledge save them, or would it plunge them into more horror? In the strangling grip of shadows, she took a breath, feeling the choice ripple through her. "Whatever it is, we have to go," she whispered, determination flooding her veins, pulling John along as they sprinted into the unknown. What awaited them in those shadows? The truth, or a trap too intricate to escape? The questions lingered heavy around her, biting at her resolve. The darkness thickened around them, an oppressive cocoon echoing their panic. Each corridor twisted as if designed to confuse, the cold stone walls seeming to pulse, breathing with a life of their own. The whispers slithered between the cracks, swirling into an insistent drone that gnawed at Lily's sanity. "Do you really want to remember?" The voice lingered, taunting them, slipping into the crevices of her thoughts. Was it a warning, or an invitation to confront whatever lay hidden within those pages? "Lily!" John tugged on her arm, eyes darting behind him as shadows danced across the walls. "We have to move. Now!" Her heart raced wildly in her chest. She blinked against the encroaching darkness, forcing her focus forward. If they could just get that journal, maybe all of this torment would end. But the specters writhed, their fingers reaching, clawing, desperate for attention. "Will you save us?" they whispered, voices overlapping, curling around her neck, a chilling embrace of despair. "No!" she shouted, shaking her head to dispel the phantom's grip. "We want to be like you." They surged forward, the corridor ahead narrowing, stretching into unfathomable depths. Each step echoed with the weight of uncertainty. As they ran, it felt as if the shadows conspired against them, walls shifting, pressing in tighter, a crushing force of malice. "Just a little further," John urged, his breath sharp, as if he expected the darkness to snap at his heels. Lily kept her grip tight on his hand, feeling the sweat slick against her skin, clinging to him as they darted deeper into the unknown. The metallic glint of the journal haunted her as they approached a door that seemed to breathe, exhaling an unholy stench of decay. "Please!" The whispers crescendoed, rising to a wailing pitch. "Join us. It's the only way." "Shut up!" Lily screamed, frustration boiling over. She pushed against John, physically urging him closer to the door. "We need to find it. It has to be in there." With shaky hands, she pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, the sound reverberating from dank corners thick with the smell of rot. Inside, the air shimmered under invisible pressure. A single candle flickered in the gloom, casting eerie shadows that danced violently, revealing quickly the tattered edges of a journal lying on an altar. It looked ancient, covered in a layer of dust that indicated decades of neglect. John's breath hitched, fear clawing at his throat. What if it's a trap? A moment of hesitation hung between them, radiating the terror of choice. The shadows shrank back, momentarily retreating as if sensing the impending decision. Was it safe? Could they trust whatever twisted secrets lay within those pages? Without answering, she took a step forward, the sickening weight of dread settling in the pit of her stomach. I have to know. She reached for the journal, fingers trembling as they brushed against the textured cover. The moment her skin connected, the ground trembled violently beneath them. "Run!" John shouted, but the shadows shrieked, morphing rapidly and sprawling to grasp at them. Lily clutched the journal, feeling its intensity surge through her veins, an electric connection pulsing as the whispers erupted into a banshee wail. "Run! Get out! It's coming!" But something dark and sinuous rose from behind, a mass of shadows swirling into a formidable shape. The terror of what they were fighting surged in her chest, clawing for escape. Suddenly, with a blinding flash, the room was illuminated. Footsteps thundered underfoot, the shadows recoiling. "You can't leave." A guttural voice rumbled from the void, sending a shiver down her spine. What did we awaken? Lily gasped, the reality of their lineage crashing around her like a tidal wave. With the journal in hand, they stood at the precipice. The choice before them was suffocating, and no escape seemed possible. As the darkness surged forward, rage-filled faces emerged, their mouths contorting into shrieks of fury and anguish. "Will you keep the light or join us forever in the dark?" Lily felt the cold tendrils close in, the weight of fate settling heavily on her shoulders. But would opening the journal unleash the truth, or doom them both? This was only the beginning. Would they break free of their fate or fall deeper into the nightmare? The answer was just a heartbeat away. The shadows recoiled, but just for an instant. Lily felt the heartbeat of the room, a thrum that pulsed like a warning. She could barely breathe. The candle flickered wildly, casting long, twisted silhouettes that danced along the walls. She gripped the journal tighter, feeling as though it might explode with secrets, or worse. "Lily, we have to," John started, but the guttural voice interjected, its echo swallowing his words whole. "You've awakened what should have remained buried, children." The malicious laughter twisted around them, drenched in an ancient malevolence. Lily's skin prickled at the sound, a swarm of insects crawling beneath her flesh, the horde of shadows surged, a writhing mass of despairing faces pressing forward, mouths moving rapidly as if they were reciting something forbidden. Their eyes glinted with a knowing horror, betraying centuries of entrapment. "Keep the light. You can't shut up," John yelled, fear flashing in his eyes. "We can't let them drag us down." Lily felt the panic rising within her, clawing at her throat. She tore her gaze from the menacing swirl, focusing on the journal. It beckoned her, promising answers but threatening doom. The words scrawled across its surface twisted in her mind. Would knowing ruin them, or save them? Suddenly, the ground quaked again, trembling under the force of the shadow's rage. The walls began to close in, the air thickening into a suffocating blanket. "Remember." The guttural voice boomed, as the corridor twisted behind them. "You chose this path." "What does that mean?" Lily gasped. "What do you want from us?" "Your blood, your pain, your essence." "No!" she shouted, her voice rising into the chaos. "We'll never give that to you." She took a step back, heart hammering, but John grabbed her shoulder, pulling her forward. "Lily, we have to get out. Now." But the shadows were closing in, their grasping fingers nearly brushing against her skin. A hollow howling surrounded them, growing in intensity as if the walls themselves echoed the tortured cries of the damned. "Take it!" The shadows seemed to shout, an urgent chorus as they surged closer. "Join us, betrayal is sweet, embrace your fate." The candle flickered again, casting a glimpse of the journal's cover. Its title was obscured, but something caught her eye, a symbol that looked like a twisted, wailing face. What if the thought struck her like lightning? What if this journal is our only way to understand them? What if it has a way to fight back? "Lily, no." She interjected, determination igniting within her. "We can't run anymore. I need to know what I've awakened. What this is about. You have to trust me." The shadows let out a guttural roar, and with every ounce of her resolve, Lily ripped the journal open. The pages crackled like dry leaves, revealing script that twisted and frowned, a language not meant for her eyes. At that moment, everything froze. The shadows halted, the whispers dying to an eerie silence. The candle flame bloomed, illuminating the room in an ethereal glow. Fate intertwines, and so your choice is made. What will you do, Lily? The air tightened around her. An icy dread washed over her. She could feel the weight of the world in her hands. If the truth would awaken even greater horror, could she turn back? But before she could gather her thoughts, the shadows lunged forward, the ravenous emptiness ready to consume them whole. She had mere seconds to respond. What if I read it? Lily dared, voice trembling, not entirely sure if the question was posed to the darkness or to herself. As she began to read, the room surged and the shadows lurked closer, eager for whatever fate she would choose. But would that choice lead to salvation or doom? Lily, no. Don't. Before John could finish, the shadows roared with fury, drowning out their hope. The journey darkened, where every secret held could either forge their path to freedom or seal their doom forevermore. Will you dare to look deeper? The voice echoed as she read on, words swirling around her like a tempest of terror. The darkness swirled, eager for its due, while within her heart, a flicker of rebellion ignited. But as the shadows closed in, one burning question remained: would the pages hold the key to their survival or the end of everything they knew? Lily's voice trembled as she read aloud. The words twisted in the air, strange symbols writhing, almost alive. The shadows recoiled but then surged again, a pendulum of fear swinging dangerously close. John caught her gaze, desperation in his eyes. Lily, be careful. They want to pull you in. But she couldn't stop. Each word seemed to unlock something within her, a hidden door to fear and power. The candle flickered with a life of its own, casting eerie lights around the room that danced like wraiths. There was something about the script, something darker, more compelling. Your fate entwines, the cycle must continue, the murmurs echoed, intertwining with her thoughts, drowning out everything else. The air thickened, stifling her breath. As she continued to read, the shadows began to writhe violently, as if they were alive, as if they had hopes and desires, long hidden behind layers of anguish. What does it say? John barked, panic clawing through his voice. Lily's heart raced. Each word was a revelation, each syllable a pull into the abyss. It talks about sacrifices. It demands a toll for answers. Stop reading. John shouted, but it felt like they were both caught in a riptide, the pull too strong. The whispers swelled, a cacophony of voices intertwining, echoing her deepest fears. They sang of betrayal, of loss, of a fate stitched from shadows longer than history itself. Join us. Join us. The shadows shrieked, their wails penetrating her soul. No. She shouted back, but the resolve in her voice was wavering. The shadows crept closer, stretching fingers like blackened tendrils, desperate to latch onto her skin. Suddenly, a distinct memory flickered through her mind. Her grandmother's stories, tales of ancient spirits and curses, warned against awakening that which lies dormant. The words seemed to leap from the pages, swirling around her like a cyclone, engulfing her in spheres of darkness and light. Lily. John's voice broke through, a tether to reality. We need to leave. Now. Before she could process, a surge of energy burst from the journal, pushing her back, and a vision took her. She saw herself trapped within those swirling shadows, suspended in darkness, doomed to become one of them. Yet another figure stood near her, shrouded in similar obsidian forms, its face twisted into a grotesque grin, a mirror of her own terror. Sacrifices are what bind us. The voice echoed within her, deep and insidious. It feeds on fear. Will you feed it? Lily swallowed hard. The truth rippled through her. They feed on our fear. If I stop believing, will they weaken? The shadows paused, as if contemplating her words, their furious movements dissipating into hesitant quivers. In that brief stillness, hope sparked in her chest. What if I defy them? What if I fight? Fight? The guttural voice hissed, an unwelcome scorn. Yes. Fight. She declared, a surge of resolve igniting in her heart. She grasped the journal tighter, as if the weight of its history anchored her will. Those dark forms were nothing but echoes of lost souls. She was not their victim, but just as energy surged through her, the shadows shrieked again. The horde twitched in anger, the malevolence rising. You think a mere child can defy us? Children are never mere. A voice from within her echoed back with unyielding strength. The candle flickered one last time, but this time it didn't dim. It flared to life, spilling bright flame, illuminating the truth, that fear could become fuel instead of chains. The shadows recoiled in sudden alarm, twisting anew, a chaotic mass surrendering to her clarity. But the moment didn't last. Your light can't save you. They screamed, their voices blending into a harmonious crescendo of despair. Lily felt a pull, a darkness trying to seep past her resolve, a reminder that they would stop at nothing to reclaim what they had lost. Whatever you do, don't look away. John yelled, his voice carried by a gust that swept through the room as the shadows' movement intensified, a storm brewing to engulf them once more. Would their daring defiance lead to victory, or would the shadows relentlessly drag them back into eternal darkness? The question loomed larger than the walls collapsing around them. Could they truly fight the loss of their own fears? As the shadows lashed out, clawing and snapping like wild animals, Lily felt the weight of despair settling over her. The candle flickered brighter, fueled by her determination, illuminating the chaotic dance of darkness and light. No! She screamed, directing every ounce of defiance toward the coiling shadows that sought to ensnare her. You will not take us. John's hand gripped hers tightly, grounding her in the chaos as they faced the encroaching darkness together. Stick together. He shouted, his voice resolute. A sudden rush of bravery surged through Lily. She would not be another name whispered in tales of the vanished. Not today. The journal in her hands pulsed with energy, its pages shimmering ominously, recounting images of sorrow but also of hope. If it feeds on fear, we need to turn it against them. She shouted. Lead with love, courage. Show them we're not afraid. With every word she spoke, the shadows trembled slightly, as if struck by a force they had not anticipated. Do you feel that? She whispered to John. They're losing their grip. We can fight back. Together. John shouted back, his voice igniting a fire within her. The raw energy emanating from her spirit melded with his, amplifying their resolve. They stepped forward, pulling energy from the light and breathing out their shared fears. Fight me. She cried, her voice echoing, penetrating the stillness of the dark. You want our pain, but you'll get nothing. We're breaking the cycle. The shadows shrieked in response, a dark chorus of their fury, yet their movements wavered, as if confused by the proclamation. Suddenly, with a violent upheaval, the ground beneath them shuddered, and a blinding light erupted from the pages of the journal. Illumination filled the space, forcing the shadows to recoil, writhing in agony. What is this? The guttural voice howled, momentarily weakening, giving them the chance they so desperately needed. Now, John. Let us push through. She felt him nod, the fierce brightness fueling their resolve as they rushed toward the exit they first found. A beam of light erupted from the open door, beckoning them like a lighthouse in a storm, a way to freedom from the torment. The shadows screamed in rage, surging after them, trying to reclaim their victims. But as they crossed the threshold, the ghostly figures of lost children burst forth from the darkness, emotions swirling with hope, longing to be freed. Help us! They cried, and Lily felt the surge of empathy ignite within her heart. No! She called out to the shadows writhing behind them. You cannot have them. They deserve peace. With every stride, the candlelight burned brighter, spilling warmth and love born of their shared fight against despair. The shadows surged again, deafened with rage. "Join us. You cannot escape." But Lily didn't falter. "We will escape. We and the lost children will break your cycle." She forced herself to breathe deeper, channeling every ounce of hope she could muster. At that moment, something shifted. A bridge of understanding forged between the children's spirits and her, John, and the light they fought for. As they stepped into the brilliance, it erupted, washing over the mysterious, tortured essence of the lost. The shadows withered, caught in the beam of truth, fading as the light spread. Sorrow molded into peace. The lost children were embracing their history, allowing healing to wash over them at last. "Thank you," a voice whispered, lighter than a breath of wind before it joined the light above. Outside, night had turned into dawn, and the church trembled behind them, a farewell to the darkness. As golden rays broke through the trees, every whisper and shadow finally fell silent. Lily turned, feeling a weight lift, and for the first time, the air felt safe. "Did we?" John began, the question lingering between them as they watched the church crumble softly into the earth. "It's over?" "Yes." They smiled, tears of joy intertwining with disbelief streaming down their cheeks. The village, echoing stories long muted, would remember them as victors. Hand in hand, they walked away from the darkness, yearning to tell their story, a story of courage and love that battled against despair. As morning embraced the silence of Hempstead Hollow, the past was laid to rest, ensuring the children were never forgotten. But as they headed home, an echo rang in their ears, a haunting reminder that history is woven deep, and even the slumbering shadows could awaken, lurking just beyond the realm of memory. Now, settle for your own journey into truth. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And for real, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.